What's up, everybody? This is Wedow, head coach at efficiencybook.com. Wanted to welcome you to our very first time management training webinar. So the first time I tried recording this, the audio cut out, so we're going to make this as clean and polished as possible, but there's going to be errors. Just like you're not perfect, I'm definitely not perfect, but the whole point of this is to have us grow closer to whatever our goals are. So I had this topic come up on our Facebook page of, what topics would benefit you guys the most, and I had a pretty good response for people just wanting more time, being able to have more time, more energy, and being able to manage their time. So time management is going to be the topic. So a lot about these webinars these days, people steal a lot of information. Everything I show on the screen I want you to have. I want you guys to screenshot this, pay attention, all that fun stuff. If I'm going to be taking the time to make this video, and we'll talk about this later, of duplication, I want to duplicate myself as many times as possible by doing one thing once so many people can see it many more times down the road. So with that said, screenshot this stuff. If you're on your phone, be active and engaged with this. I definitely suggest at any time you can take notes. That's one of the things is we hear just only so much. Whatever we hear, we only retain so much of what we hear. Of what we see, we only retain a small portion of that as well. But what we write down, what we hear, what we read again is what's going to create lifelong changes. So if you're one of the people that said, hey, this time management thing, I need to get better at it. I need to learn some success principles to manage my life, my family, my work, all that a little bit more effectively. If you're one of those people, be sure to pause this at any time. There's a reason why it's a recording. You guys are in the driver's seat. If you're in your pajamas, whatever, pause this thing whenever you need to. Rewind, move forward, whatever it takes. I want you guys to learn the best way that you do. But with that said, take a note. There's going to be a lot of me just talking, hopefully to you and not at you. If you ever feel like I'm talking at you, get off the webinar. It's not going to be a good fit for you. You're not going to learn as much as possible. But if you're motivated to grow, if you're motivated to really master the art of time management and pick up some cool efficiency tips along the way, keep watching, stay tuned, grab a notebook, whatever your favorite app is to take notes. Get rid of all your distractions. I know this webinar is not going to be super long, but if you can get that focus in and be locked in for the next couple of minutes, I think this is going to be beneficial for you. So let's get started. Our first topic is elimination. What can you eliminate to become more efficient and effective? It's just like pruning a plant. I use a lot of visuals as far as, any picture that I put on the screen, I put it up there for a purpose. Everything with a purpose in life. So a picture of somebody pruning a plant, what does that look like for your life? So the first thing is the best way to grow in life is addition from subtraction. Now, what do I mean by that? We can't really always make the numbers work. Oh, well, I took stuff away. How am I growing? Well, if we cut off, remove, or get rid of anything that's not benefiting us, anything that's not energizing us, anything that's not productive, if we eliminate those, think about eliminating your weaknesses. If you get rid of your weaknesses, if you're able to define what you're good at, what you're not good at, and get rid of those weaknesses, then you're going to maximize your strengths. So just like a plant, in nature you'll see a lot of this stuff. Anytime it's true in nature, it's probably going to be true in our lives as well. So just like a plant, you trim off the dead branches, trim off the leaves, cut it back each year so the flowers can grow back brighter and more beautiful each time. So what in your life, and this is one of those times where if you are taking notes, feel free to pause this and actually dig into these questions. But what in your life can you remove? What can you gain from removing the time wasters, from removing the tasks that just really don't have any benefit for you? If you removed all of your weaknesses, what would life look like? So these are all questions to ponder, and you might not have an answer right away, and that's okay. The whole point of this is to bring up some points in your life that maybe you haven't thought of before, or maybe they're points that you've heard 1,000 times And typically when that happens, there's a reason for it. It means we haven't learned the lesson that we were supposed to learn yet. So what are some lessons that are reoccurring themes in your life? What can you learn from? Think about this first topic of elimination. What can we eliminate to become more efficient and effective? So as far as that, we talked about efficient, effective, elimination. What does that all mean? So let's break it down. First of all, is what is efficiency? Efficiency, everybody's going to have a little bit different dictionary definition of efficiency. For me, the dictionary definition for efficiencybook.com, my personal definition is efficiency is something or someone who is simple and effective. Well, there's two parts of that, and we'll talk about that here in a second, the simple and effective part. But really think of those two skills when you're looking to spruce up your time management skills and traits and really maximize who you are as a person and what you accomplish in life. But the first thing efficiency is it's the 80-20 rule. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Pareto principle, but there's this dude back in the day, Pareto. He came up with this principle, and it's something that can be seen in everyday life. It can be seen in the sales world. It can be seen in economics. It can be seen the bell-shaped curve in academics, so education world. But really what the Pareto principle is pretty much everywhere you look, there's going to be 80% of something and 20% of something else. So for some people, you've got 80% strengths. For people that struggle a little bit more, you've got 80% weaknesses. Whatever it looks like, it's okay. The whole point of this is to understand where you're at. If you can understand where you're at, you can help define where you want to go and where you don't want to go. So as far as the Pareto principle, let's use sales as an example. In the sales world, about 20% of a sales team brings in 80% of all of the sales. Everybody talks about the 1% as far as it relates to the economy. The richest people are in the 1%. Well, technically, if you look at the statistics in America, we're the 20%. Out of all the nations out there, 80% of the rest of the world is less rich than these developed countries such as America. So how does that look, and how can you maximize this? Knowing this information moving forward, there's areas in your life where you're going 110%. A lot of athletes have been told from their coaches, run through walls, give 110%. The whole point of being simple and effective is you don't want to do any more than you need to for the things that don't matter. You don't need to do anything more for the things that don't matter. Just do the bare minimum. So there's going to be times where you need 100% of your attention. These are the important things. The important things absolutely go 100% in. If you can give 110%, give 110%. But those are only for the things that matter. Most of our life, I'd say 80% of our life, we can really put it on cruise control. So when we're talking about our energy, it's a non-renewable resource to a degree. We only have so much energy we can give per day. So why don't we focus that energy on what's important? So, there's a lot of daily tasks. If you check out my blog on efficiencybook.com, there's daily tasks. There's a blog in there, nine habits we can automate. There's daily tasks that we can really put little to no effort into and still have the same result. A lot of people want to really focus on something, but they're just wasting their time. They have to talk themselves up to go out there and do something. They have to really have this big elaborate plan. So when you're thinking of that, what are the things that do need a big elaborate plan? What are those 20% of things that require your full attention? Maybe that's going to be your family time. Maybe that's your relationships. But on your commute home, if you're stuck in traffic, yeah, I want you to be safe on the road, but that might only take 20% of your effort, 20% of your attention span. What are you using that other 80% for? Again, this isn't going to be all the time. Nobody can go at 100% of the time. That's why we've got to pick and choose when to use our maximum effort or the majority of our effort. Again, if I'm going to push a boulder down a hill, let's say it's an 80-pound boulder. All you got to do is push it with the force of 80 pounds, and it's going to go down a hill and complete whatever task you wanted. For some reason, let's say you win $1 million if you push this dang thing down the hill. So that's a tough example because that's something that actually matters. If it matters that much, of course, do 100%, throw that thing down the hill because it's something that matters. Let's say it's something that doesn't matter that much, like, hey, by the end of the day, you need to get this boulder down the hill. Not a big deal. So in that case, just push it with 80 pounds of force. You don't need to push it with 200 pounds of force, 300 pounds of force. Just do the bare minimum. Find its tipping point and let it go from there. Let life's natural momentum guide you. It's the same principle whether that's a rock or specific task in your work or your home life. What can you start to automate? What can you do bare minimum just to get it done? So often I'm a perfectionist when it comes to doing the dishes, cleaning my truck, whatever. I'll spend hours and I'm like, it's just going to get dirty tomorrow. Vacuuming the house, I'm going to have to do it again next week. So I've been shaping my goals to, instead of making the house 100% clean, instead of doing the dishes to the best of my ability, it's okay to slack off every once in a while. It's okay to find those tasks where, it just needs to be 80% cleaner. It just needs to be 20% better. You don't always have to put in 100%. I think you'll see your life dramatically change when you start reserving your effort and your energy for the things that matter. So be thinking of some things. Feel free to write this down, but what are some things in your life that you can apply the 80-20 rule to? How can you become more efficient? So we're going to go to the next slide here and talk about how to be simple and how to be effective. So the first point is going to be effective. What is effective? Well, really effective, the easy concept to grasp. It's, did you complete what you set out to complete? So it's hitting the bullseye. Hitting the mark of success is effective. So when we're thinking of effectiveness, in the teaching world, there's teachers out there. How effective are they? How much are the students learning? There's a lot of people that say, get the bang for your buck. Are you getting the most bang for your buck? So effective, it's really about kind of that perfection mentality. It's about hitting the bullseye. It's about setting an exact target and hitting the middle of that target. And hitting that target not just well, but consistently, being able to hit that mark day in and day out. So there's going to be times in your life where you need to be effective. I mean, the whole point of efficiency, again, the two main components of efficiency being simple and effective. If things are simple and not effective, it's going to get complicated. If things are effective and super complicated, it's going to take longer to get there. So that's why we're going to talk about the next point is simplicity. I put a picture of Forrest Gump here. I'm not a simple man, or I'm a simple man, whatever he says in Forrest Gump, but really it's the concept of the bare essentials, the easiest way to get what is desired. So if being effective, if hitting your target takes 20 minutes, you can go the long way and still get there, or you can go the short way and still get there. If your goal is to get there, if your goal is the bullseye, make it as simple as possible. The simpler it is, the easier it becomes. As soon as something is broken down into bite-sized pieces, it's a lot easier to digest. Again, talking about the natural world, look at animals that chew their food over and over and over. They're taking their time with it. The reason for that is to help their digestive system be more effective. To be simple as far as the digestive tract process, we're going to chew it, we're going to swallow it. The rest is going to take care of itself. So when we're talking about the bare essentials, what's the easiest way to break things down? Think of Forrest Gump. Make it simple. If he can do it, we can do it, right? So here's the thing. Never want to make fun of anybody, but I think using a movie reference is a great time to really give you a point that is going to stay with you long term. If you remember this picture, make it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Who's heard that one before? So as far as getting that simplified, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. You can't take this huge task without breaking it down to little parts. But once those little parts are simple, it's easier to get there and be more effective. There's a saying, is, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So if you think of a trained marksman, somebody using firearms, shooting guns, if you apply slow is smooth, smooth is fast, if you go slow, if you make sure you get everything right, you break it down into little bite-sized chunks, you're going to be able to point, aim, and shoot on target very effectively. And the simpler and the easier it is, that's when speed happens. That's when you get to be faster. When things run smoothly, you gain speed. So what are some things in your life that, maybe you struggle, you're spinning your wheels on, but if you just broke it down into simple steps, how much more can your life be easier? How much more effective can you be? That's efficiency. Once you start to see those patterns in life, and that's the thing, you're going to see that a lot in life. There's patterns out there. Look to the natural world and you'll find patterns. Apply it to your own life, you'll see the same patterns. So if you can fall back onto your training is to be as simple as possible and hit your target as often as possible. That's what efficiency is all about. So when that comes to time management, keep your thoughts on that. I don't know who's all going to be watching this webinar. Everybody's story is going to be different, but like I just said, there's going to be patterns out there. You might have a similar pattern to somebody else. These are proven success principles that will be true yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So if you can break things down and hit your target, that's really the goal here. So as far as hitting your target, you've got to define what your target is. A good way to gain more time is, again, we're talking about elimination throughout this whole process. If we want to gain something, we have to give something up. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So as far as I want to gain more time, that means I'm going to have to give something up. So this is how we gain from elimination. We want to get rid of the things that aren't simple. We want to get rid of the things that aren't effective. We want to use the 80-20 rule to really just define how much effort needs to be used for a given task and then dominate that task. So Grant Cardone, I'm stealing this from Grant Cardone. He talks about automation a lot. He says, if something's worth doing, do it every day. If it's not worth doing every day, automate it. Now we think about this, I use a picture of a robot here, all right, cute little Wall-E, right? So as far as automation, there's not mass flocks of robots taking over the world, or is there? Take a look at Walmart, self-checkout lines. It's not a robot that looks like this, but that's an automation process. They've dedicated self-checkout lines to be more simple and effective. By cutting down the lines, you can get more people through the lines. You can save on cost as far as how many employees you use. And then those extra employees, there's one to 4, I don't know what it is, depends on the Walmart, but there's one self-checkout monitor for every 4, 6, 12 self-checkout lines. They just opened up a lot of simplicity and effectiveness by doing that. Then they can move all their extra employees to Walmart grocery, somewhere that they can pick up their groceries for you and deliver them. So everybody says, well, where's my discount? Where's my employee discount for checking out, doing self-checkout at some places? Well, really, they've kept the same amount of employees. They've just dispersed them differently. So kind of think about that as far as your world. What else is being automated around you? McDonald's is getting rid of cashiers and using those kiosks. We look at Redbox and Netflix. Where did Blockbuster go? Because these things, as technology grows, as we as a human race grow, we're going to be focusing our time on the things that matter. If we're doing things effectively, if we're being efficient, we're going to do things just like this. We're going to focus on what matters, and we're going to automate the rest. So when it comes to doing the groceries, it's a perfect example. How many impulse buys have you had because you're walking with your kids pushing the shopping cart? Mommy, can I have this? They grab it off the shelf. It's already in your cart before you know it. Maybe you don't have kids. Maybe you're just living day by day. You eat out a lot, whatever it is. Maybe you want to eat healthier. An easy way to fix that is to meal plan. And if you're already writing this thing down, if you're writing down your recipes and your meal plan, automate it. Why not? Again, do it once or do it every day. There's a lot that I talk about on that blog, 9 things that we can automate on efficiencybook.com. But, your emails. If you're going to write an email and send it to 10 different people, write the same email. You don't have to retype it every time. So why not do that with our grocery shopping? There's ways to reorder groceries. There's ways to plan ahead and have Amazon delivery send your dog food each month. Whenever you're about to run out, it's already at your door. You don't have to waste your time going and getting the groceries. You don't have to waste your time going and getting the pet food. Now, why are we talking about this? Again, it's elimination. What can you eliminate to gain what you want? If you're on this webinar, chances are you want more time. You want more energy. You want more money. Those are the 3 main motivators for people these days. And the reason for that is because really we're looking to do what we want, where we want, with who we want, when we want. So if you're wanting more time, well, what if you got rid of the things that are wasting your time? What if you automated them? How much time can you save? For my groceries, normally it's pack up the car, drive to Safeway, shop. Well, that looks good. That doesn't look good. Bag it up, check out, whatever. Come home, unload it, and then sometimes we cook it, sometimes it expires. There's a lot of waste in that. But when I sit down and dedicate, here's what I'm going to eat this week. Here's my different meals. And this doesn't have to be anything with the military discipline. Again, it's the 80-20 rule. We're not here to be perfect because nobody has an unlimited attention span. Nobody has unlimited energy. So use these to the best of your ability. Some people love going to the store. If that's you, again, if it's worth doing, do it every day. If it's not, automate it. If it's something that you don't like doing or it's wasting your time, if it's taking away your valuable time away from your friends and family and the things that you want to be doing, find a way to automate it. So being able to get on Walmart grocery, add my recipes to my cart, add my ingredients, check out, takes about 10 minutes. Drive to Walmart, pick it up, have them load it in my car for me, drive home, takes about another 10 to 15 minutes. So that gave me back about a half hour of my time each week. Now, what am I using that time for? Probably making webinars like this. So if you can find a reason for that time, find a way to automate things, gain that time, but don't waste your time. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but once people get this extra time, a lot of people, it takes time, it takes a process to realize what they can actually do in a day, what they can actually do with that extra time. So the next point, to be efficient. If we want to be efficient with our time management skills, we want to automate what we can, and we also want to outsource things. There's ways for automation. Again, there's a blog on efficiencybook.com. But for outsourcing, look at this dude. He's climbing in a shrubbery. This guy's a professional. I can't go out there and be trimming bushes, standing on a wall. I can barely tie my shoes most days. So what do you hate doing? Here's the questions that you really need to answer if you want to have this time management thing improving in your life. What do you hate doing? That can be at work, that can be at home, that can be in relationships. Have fun with this. What do you not like doing? Who can you hire to do it for you? That's the thing. If you guys look at, I'll use myself, I'll make fun of myself a little bit. If you look at my website, it looks like a non-professional created it. That's because I created it. If I'm recording this webinar for a second time, it's because a non-professional created it. I created it. So it's going to take me longer to do something because I'm not an expert at creating websites. It's not going to look as good or sound as good because I'm not an expert at online webinars. If you don't press the dang record button, you're going to have trouble. So, yeah, it costs money. Changing my oil, I can go drive out, buy the oil, drive back, take off everything, drain the oil, replace the oil, all the filters. It's going to take me at least an hour. Can run to some place. Yeah, it's going to save me money if I do it myself, but it's going to cost more time. You can always make more money. You can't always make more time. That's why we're trying to be efficient with the things that we're already doing. Again, simple and effective to give us more time, more of that non-renewable resource. You can always get more money. It might not be easy, but you can't always get more time. There's always 24 hours in a day. So if you love doing yard work, again, it goes back to automation. If you love it, if it's worth doing every single day, if it's rewarding and has value in your life, do it. But getting on this brick wall and trimming hedges, let the professionals do it. Hire out for all the things that you don't want to do. And think about that in your work life. Jobs these days, they hire people and they don't really add to them. They just say, hey, no, I need you to do this. You might gain a title even. You might be doing more work than you've ever done and you're still getting paid the same. That's because inefficient companies, they find people who are good at a couple things and then have them do everything. Efficient companies, what they do is hire experts in their given field. If you're an expert closer, if you're really good at closing sales, that's all you're going to do. If you're great at lead generation and you need to get prospects going to the closers, that's all you're going to do. If you're really good with making websites, you're not going to be baking cakes. So find what your strengths are. Again, eliminate your weaknesses by hiring somebody that's good at them. How much time could I have saved by not editing this webinar myself, by not doing a website by myself, just because I wanted to be cheap? Yeah, in the end, it might, with enough time and effort and learning how to code and run Facebook ads and create podcasts, I could have saved probably a good couple months of my time if I would have just outsourced. So there's a time and place. You got to be very honest with yourself and remove your ego, because a lot of people, they want to be good at everything. Again, look at the 80-20 principle. You're going to be 80% good at 20% of the things. You're not going to be the best at everything. You can be a jack of all trades and be good at none of them. So keep that in mind. What are the things you hate doing? Outsource it. That's going to look different for everybody, whether you're a stay-at-home parent, if you're working in the sales world, if you're running an office, if you're an entrepreneur, especially for entrepreneurs. If you're trying to do it all yourself, you're doing it the wrong way. And I get it. We're going to talk about it soon. Well, what if I can't afford all these ways to outsource things? That's why we're going to talk about time versus money. We've kind of hit on this a little bit before, but time, you're not getting that back. Money, depends on the case, you're not getting it back. So let's jump into the quote here. Life is a constant battle of trading time for money and money for time. Money is a renewable resource. You can always make more money. Time is the opposite. No matter how hard you try, you have to trade money to get more time. Now think about it. How do you get money? Money is an exchange for value. If you think back in the Stone Age days, they were trading, they were borrowing, they were doing favors for friends. Hey, I'll come over and give you some of my eggs if you help me build a barn. They're trading out things. Money was established as a value system. So I brought you those eggs. Well, now give me these pebbles. These pebbles are worth something. Whether they are or aren't, it's all perception. Just like those green dollar bill things that people still carry around in their wallet today, or that credit card you have. That credit card's not worth anything. It costs 3 cents to ship it out to you, put a magnetic strip on it, and let you swipe it wherever you go. But what that credit card does, it holds value. It's a token. It collects all the effort that you put in. If you're out there building a barn, you put out effort. You're using your effort to create something. What you created is valuable. It took time. It took your time, your effort, your blood, sweat, and your tears, but you got money because of it. You got an exchange of goods and services, because of the value that you brought. So when you're thinking about time and money, they're very similar in a way. They can both be spent, they can both be wasted, they can both be invested. So what are you doing with your time right now? Are you spending it? Are you wasting it? Are you investing it? You're gonna be able to tell. Now, there's a quote that goes out, you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around the most. Look at your 5 best friends. Look at the people you see the most, your friends, your family, your coworkers. Who do you lean towards? Now, think about them and where they're at in their life. What's an average of that? You're only the average of the people you're around. So if you're looking at net worth, if you're looking about how much money people have, you're going to be close to wherever your friends are. If your friends are deep in debt, you're going to see yourself being closer and closer to them. If your friends are really going out and investing and you're like-minded, you're going to feel closer to those people. So when we're trading our time for our money and our money for our time, it only works one direction effectively. To get more time, you have to spend money. Again, money is just an accumulation of the value that you've already brought to the marketplace. If you're going to your job, you're providing value. If you're working with customers, creating products, whatever, you're creating value to the marketplace. That takes effort. There's no way around it. You're always going to have to put in effort. You're going to have to work hard. But the whole point of this webinar is to get a bigger return on your investment for the effort you put in. Nobody's lazy, let's put it that way. I think people just are not very good at being efficient with their time, not being efficient with their effort. They say hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. If that's a sports analogy, what does that look like in modern day business world? There's millionaires out there, but if they actually worked harder, they'd be billionaires. There's people in debt out there that if they worked harder, they'd be out of debt. Well, that's the thing. It's a cycle. Most people trying to get out of debt get further in debt because they're trying harder and harder. Again, going back to the second slide, what can we eliminate? What can we do to become more simple and effective? If our effort goes a longer ways, if we have more time, more money, what's that going to look like in our lives? How can our lives change? Can you take a second to dream, close your eyes, and see, if all of your needs were taken care of, what would you be doing? You're not worrying about money at that point. You've got all the time in the world. That's a big sigh of relief for most people. They're out there doing whatever they want to do. They say that you can sip mimosas on the beach the rest of your life, but really, life's about having purpose and meaning. After a while, going on vacation every single day, it might be cool for a couple days, couple years, couple months, but the rest of your life, you're going to get bored eventually. And you're still going to have to put in effort. It's going to take effort to go to the beach, to travel, to drink a drink. So no matter what you do, you're going to have to put in effort. So you might as well become very good at the effort you put in, become very efficient with your time. That way, again, if you become 50% more efficient with your time, really that means that you can be putting in the same amount of effort and you're doubling your money. If you think about it like this, if you can do an 8-hour day's worth of work in 4 hours, you just gained 4 hours, not because you're doing any less work, you just became better at it. Life isn't supposed to get easier. We're supposed to get better. Life's always going to be a challenge. We're going to have to do something about that challenge to get more time. And remember, money, you can spend it, you can give it away, you can work hard and get more, but you can't work hard and get more time. The harder you work, the more it's just like being in quicksand. You're just going to dig yourself more into a hole. But if you get better with your time management, if you outsource the experts in the areas that you're struggling or don't care about, if you can automate things, sure, it's going to take effort, sure, it's going to take money, but what you gain is time, and that time's valuable because you're never getting that time back. This is going to be a very important topic. This is probably the one that I would suggest screenshotting, writing down, pausing this, whatever you need to do, but both the picture on the left and the picture on the right, they're similar. These are both graciously borrowed from people that are smarter than me. So if you guys are familiar with any of these time management strategies, it's about prioritizing your priorities. It's huge. We're always going to have things that come up. There's always going to be surprises. And, we can plan. What do they say? If trying to go about life without a plan, you're planning to fail. So always have a plan. But you've got to have an adaptable plan, because if you're super rigid, look at a palm tree. A palm tree, all right, it's flexible. Yeah, it moves in a hurricane. It's going to be just fine. can handle that stress. It's a very adaptable tree. Now compare that to the other coast. If we go to the west coast to a California redwood, if a hurricane hit there, those suckers are going to snap. Sure, they're tall, they're stout, but when they come under pressure, they break. So being able to have a plan, first of all, we need a plan, but we need an adaptable plan. We've got to be able to be that quarterback and call audibles when we see the defense blitzing. We're going to have to do something different. And so the best way to do this is by using these charts. So let's start with the one on the left. So if you look at the first quadrant, quadrant number 1, it's things that are important. We already talked about this, the 80-20 rule. This is where you want to focus your attention, is on the things that are important. But here's the difference. Breaking down quadrant 1, there's the important tasks, but they're also urgent tasks. So, a baby that's crying, there's a fire in the kitchen, someone calls. You can prioritize this. And this is a very tough one for me because, all of my life I've lived the same way until I haven't. And so I hope that's what this webinar does for you, is helps you realize that you can change. It's going to take a little bit of effort. It's not going to take any more energy. It's just taking a little bit more attention, shifting your focus. Babies are going to cry. There's going to be little accidents that come up. People are going to call, but you've got to be able to prioritize that. And when you can learn to do that through outsourcing, through automation, through delegation, life's going to get a lot easier. So that brings us over to the highlighted yellow box, quadrant 2. Again, we want to live in the important area. This is where we want to live, quadrant 2. The important and not urgent things. So given enough time, if we don't take care of our bodies, we're going to die. So we need to exercise. We need to diet and eat right. But we're not going to die tomorrow if we don't exercise today. But it's all about those habits. If we don't prioritize our priorities, things are going to go downhill. Looking at our jobs, our vocation, we want to be able to make it a priority. It's important, but it's not urgent. If you don't go to work tomorrow, unless you're, a doctor and you're the only one, you can be replaced. You can, the world's not going to end if you don't show up to work tomorrow. So it's important, but it's not urgent. Planning, it's the same thing we just talked about as far as making sure that we have an adaptable, flexible plan. Those are the things that are important. Those are the things that should be prioritized, is focusing on your health, your work, and planning, because things are going to come up. If you plan for urgent things coming up, well, what will I do if there's a fire? What will I do if the baby cries? Well, if you're in the middle of a task, we're going to talk about that here in a little bit, but the average person takes nearly 25 minutes to get their attention back from being distracted. So say you're reading an article. Shoot, maybe you're watching this webinar and you have to pause because, darn it, somebody texted you, because, the kids are screaming, the dogs are barking, whatever it is. To get your full attention and be fully engulfed back into the task at hand, it takes 25 minutes. Think about that at work. If you have a coworker that comes over and you're in the middle of writing an email, they distract you, break your concentration and train of thought, it takes nearly 25 minutes, nearly a half hour for the average person to regain full focus. So we're going to talk about that here again in a minute, but let's finish off these quadrants. Quadrant number 3 on the chart on the left, this is the not important section. Again, really good lead up, interruptions, distractions, other calls. We do not want to live here. And then also not important and not urgent task. Quadrant 4, trivia. We want to make sure that we're, doing some fun things. Time wasters, busy work, all of that. Again, it's the 80-20 rule. We're not going to be able to live in quadrant 2 100% of the time. But if we can live there 80% of the time, we're going to become more effective and do a lot better with our time management. Again, relaxing, doing some stuff that wastes your time, takes your minds off of things. But really the goal is to have a life that you don't need to take a vacation from. So be thinking about that. Avoiding busy work. Again, if it's something that somebody else can do or somebody else enjoys, if that busy work is able to be delegated, to be outsourced, do it. Let's jump over here to the chart on the right. Very similar concept. We're still going to want to float our main attention to quadrant 2. But again, here's a little bit more of a guideline. We want to manage those crises. You know, those pressing problems. Again, talking about the baby, the kitchen fire, some calls. We want to manage them. You know, we're not always going to solve them. We have to be able to fight fires daily. Fires will come up. If you come into life thinking every single day is going to be a challenge, you're going to be surprised, because there's days that aren't challenges, and those are going to be awesome days. But when you realize that, shoot, there's going to be 10 things each day that are going to require a heck of a lot of effort, if you have that mentality going in, you're going to be able to be quicker to delegate them, to fight those fires. You know, you're going to handle the mental demand and strain. You know, these things are necessary, but we're going to have to manage them. You know, this is the important and urgent task again. Manage those. Quadrant 2, again, same chart, just different words. We want to focus our attention in quadrant 2. You know, what are our strategies? What are our values? How can we stay in an active strategy mode? How can we opportunity plus planning? How can we combine those together? We want to be critically thinking. We want to keep that flow going. You'll get on Efficiency Book at some point and see, you know, either a podcast or our blogs about the flow zone, living in the flow zone. You know, some people handle stress better than others. Some people are motivated by stress. Some people are stressed out by stress. But when you find your optimal zone of performance and things just come easy and natural to you, that's what the flow zone is. Being able to keep that critical thinking moving forward. Also, we want to focus on finding the macro. If we consider the macro, what's the big picture? You know, there's those little tasks. Again, we're talking about busy work and time wasters. They're not anything we need to be focusing on. We want to limit those. So, quadrant number 3, we want to avoid that. We want to avoid those distractions, interruptions, calls, whatever. So, interruptions and busy work. How can we avoid those? Well, we'll talk about that here in a second. But as far as this goes, you know, there's illusion and deception out there. We want to avoid that. Things that look good but aren't actually good for us or our time. You know, if it's not an emergency, what do they say? People that make their problems your problem, they're not ones that you want to be around. Those people, their problems are not your problems. Their lack of planning does not become a catastrophe on your part just because they didn't prepare for it. We also want to minimize our investment. You know, we don't want to be all in. Again, talking about the 80-20 rule, we don't want to be all in on the things that don't matter. So that's quadrant 3. Let's jump over here to quadrant 4. So as far as quadrant 4, we talked about this. We want to limit the trivial and wasteful time suckers, time wasters. You know, if we can delegate stuff, automate it, never have to deal with it again. If something is just purely of entertainment value, you're probably not getting much other value from it. So we want to limit that time. If you binge watch on Netflix for 8 hours on a weekend, you know, that's great. But we need to limit that time. Entertainment things that are only for entertainment, you know, what else could you be using your time for? You know, there's ways to get social interaction, exercise, and build your relationships. Jump on a sport. Go out and do some fun things with your friends. It doesn't always have to be Netflix and chill, so limit that time. All right, so let's go into some strategies to eliminate those distractions. So if you have an iPhone, you know, there's that do not disturb button. That way only emergency calls come through. There's contacts you can add. I gotta point out this picture really quick. This is gotta be those lovely guys that say mine. You guys know what movie I'm talking about, right? A little Finding Nemo action, I'm sure. So, do not disturb. You don't want to be interrupted by these distracting little seagulls or whatever the hell they are. So a good way to do that is find a way on your phone to limit those text messages, turning off your ringer, putting your phone in another room while you're doing important tasks. You know, the study that I looked up, it says, you know, it takes an average of 25 minutes to get your focus back after being distracted. So if you want to gain 30 minutes of your time back, here's a good way to do it. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb. Next one is the Moment app. I'm not sure about that whole Android thing. Bless your heart if you have one. I'm not going to hold it against you. But the Moment app, I know they for sure have it on iTunes. If you're Apple guy, gal, whatever, this app, if you go on there, it's free. It actually tracks your phone, and it's nothing crazy. It's not like sending it to the government or anything like that. But what it will do is give you a weekly report of how long you're on your phone for per day. You know, you can track this. If you're not measuring it, it doesn't grow. You know, if you don't know what's happening, you're not going to be able to hit your target. If you're shooting in the dark, going back to, you know, being effective, you can't hit your target if you don't know what your target is. So this is a good way to measure where you're currently at. It also shows you how many times you pick up your phone. Each time you pick up your phone, that's going to be a distraction if you're at work, or if you're with your family, your kids, your pets, whatever's important to you, if you're being distracted from it. You know, and it's going to show some averages in there. You know, there's one day that, you know, I was on my phone for over 10 hours. I was in Missouri for training, and it was a weekend, and I had nowhere else to go. I'm just going to sit in the hotel and jump around on Facebook and all this meaningless stuff. I literally wasted 10 hours of my day holding a cell phone. You know, it might not be that dramatic in your life. Maybe you don't have the same struggles as other people, but a lot of people these days have a cell phone addiction. They're susceptible to being distracted by picking up their phone multiple times. If you're on Facebook and you're scrolling and then you stop scrolling and your thumb keeps moving, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. That means you should probably check out the Moment app and really see how much time you're wasting. Once you realize that, you can invest that time. Stop wasting your time. Time blocking. So this is, you know, that Microsoft Outlook calendar, you know, chunking out parts of your day. If you're a morning person, be a morning person. If you're a night owl, be a night owl. So this is why we talk about finding our strengths and finding our weaknesses. If you don't know what your strengths and weaknesses are, ask those people that are closest to you. Ask your friends and your family, the people that know you the most. Hey, be honest with me. What do you think my strengths are? What do you think I can improve on? They don't have to be weaknesses. They can be areas of improvement. That's a good way to look at things. You know, don't beat yourself up. But if you do, use it for momentum. Use it for motivation. So being able to chunk out different times on your calendar, if you know you're not going to be distracted at 4 in the morning, if you're most active at 4 in the morning, freaking knock out what's important. You know, they say take out the big task first. You know, you definitely want to be the early bird, get the worm. You know, sometimes I'll get up at, you know, not 4, but 4:30, do all the important stuff. So then I can do, you know, the things where if I'm got a webinar, or if I'm on a conference call, you know, those things can happen without taken away from my life. If I'm distracted, it's hard to find distractions early in the morning. Sometimes it's hard to find distractions late at night. But if you can find a time on your calendar, write it down, you're going to be more successful. Use those calendars. You know, if it's a Google Calendar, if it's the Microsoft Outlook, we'll talk about the ToDoist calendar. There's a lot of different tools out there to help us be successful. Again, there's, I'd say just about everybody wants to be successful, but not everybody puts in the effort to do it. So the fact that you're on this webinar, it shows something. It shows that you want to be successful. You want to have more control over your time. You know, there's reasons for that. Think of the reason you jumped onto this webinar. You know, have that written down. Have that fresh in your mind. You know, pause this if you need to. You know, why am I on this webinar? Why am I still on this webinar? Think about those things. Think about that in life. You know, if there's things that are just wasting your time, you've got free will. You can walk away at any time. Luckily, this is just a webinar. Put your phone down, turn your computer off. It's not going to bother me either way. That's why I outsourced this. This is why I automated this. You know, I can send this out on Facebook, my website, YouTube, you know, the 10 plus other podcast platforms I'm on. People are going to be able to hear this. The people that need to hear this will. So what are those things that are important to you? What are the things that, you know, you're always going to have naysayers, but what can you do to be the best you, to fulfill your purpose without being distracted? Sometimes that's just dedicating a specific time of day for a specific task. Another one, I'm thinking, if I'm in the office, putting up a sign. I mean, by the time somebody knocks on your door or comes over to your cubicle or desk or wherever the hell you work, by the time you put a finger up and say, hold on one second, or I'm sorry, I'm really busy right now, can we catch up later? Put up a sign, tape over your window. If you've got a little window on your office door, close it and say, come back at this time. Give people an opportunity to come and disturb you if you like being disturbed. Here's the thing, if there's always somebody in the office that's a distractor, if you don't know who that person is, it's probably you. So all jokes aside though, it's because that thing, again, if it takes 25 minutes to refocus, life is a sprinting marathon. When we're doing our task, think of our attention span, which it's gone downhill severely in the last couple of years, mostly because of social media and Netflix. We're really good at watching TV shows for 20 minutes, then we get bored. We're really good at being on Facebook, and then we get bored. Or we're really good at life, and then we get on Facebook. Whatever it is, we get distracted so easily. So we have to chunk up these things. So know thyself. If you know what times of days you're going to be most distracted, when your body is most alert and functioning, do the toughest things then. Eat the frog first thing in the day. Get rid of that toughest task, then the rest of the day is easy. But being able to talk to coworkers, it takes communication skills. Being able to talk to friends and family, it's probably even tougher. But I'm telling you, this whole avoiding distractions, it's not easy to do. But those that do it well, they're the ones that are successful. So we kind of talked about this briefly. What measure grows. If you don't measure something, it's not going to grow. Or if it does, you won't know. So if you're, I don't know if you're like me as a kid growing up, or maybe you do it with your kids if you have kids, but every year checking your kid's height in the door frame, marking off you're 5'1" today. Next year you're 5'2", whatever, you grow an inch in a year or whatever. But as far as that, it's a milestone, being able to see those things. If you're out there, again, we'll use a sales example. There's a lot of folks that follow this podcast in the sales world. They're looking to succeed a little bit more, grow their sales. Well, how many sales did you have last month? How many, if you're out there knocking doors, cold calling, how many calls, how many knocks did you do this month? What's the conversion rate? If you don't know your numbers, it's going to be really tough to really figure out what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. Again, there's a lot of technology out there, but if some of you actually jumped on Facebook, in our Facebook group, our Facebook page, it's efficiency, how to be simple and effective. Again, that Forrest Gump example and that Target example. We want to be effective. We want to be as simple as possible to get there. But we put the ToDoist app up there for a reason. So the ToDoist app itself, it's free, just like the Moment app. I'm giving these tools out because they're things that I've used. I'm not saying they're the best things, but they're what I've done and found success with. I've played with a lot of other phone tracking software and apps. I think the Moment app is the most simple and effective, as far as being able to see exactly what I need to see so I can improve my life. Same with the ToDoist app. There's a lot of different apps out there that are for goal setting. The ToDoist app, it syncs, again, it's free, but then they have the premium version. If you jump on our Facebook page, the premium version, it's free for the first 3 months. If you want that, we'll talk a bit after the webinar. I can send it to you, but this app is so powerful because it helps you not only figure out where you're at, it helps you give a vision to yourself of where you want to be in the future. So you can set daily tasks. If you're a business owner, you can use this for your employees and create accounts for them and delegate tasks. So two of the main points, again, automating and delegating, hiring, outsourcing, this app can do it for you. If it's, I need to go to the grocery store, it will sync with your calendar. It'll sync with Siri. It shows you graphs of the different goals you've accomplished. You can actually label the different types of goals that you have. We'll talk about those here in a little bit. But also, if you're into the 7 dimensions of wellness, or if you've heard of the dimensions of wellness, really just think of, being a healthy mind, body, and spirit. There's different components to that, of course, but If you're doing daily goals, you can track, oh, I worked out today. That's a goal for my physical body. I took my wife or girlfriend out or significant other out on a date. That's good for my relationships. It helps you set and track these goals, and you can see what areas are weak, what areas are strong. And if you're one of those people that has a to-do list and you end up never crossing anything off of it, I've been there. This app has helped me actually cross things off my list. So there's a lot of cool incentives in there, but wanted to touch on that. We want to give you resources that are going to benefit you, to give you more time. If you can really just organize and plan things, maybe you're not good at it, maybe you're great at it. Either way, this app can help you with it. So when we're talking about goals, if we're inputting a goal into the ToDoist app, hard word to say sometimes, ToDoist. But if we're putting goals in the ToDoist app, we want them to be SMART goals. I was in high school the first time I heard of SMART goals. That was 10 years ago, at least 10 years ago. So SMART goals to me, it's like, well, SMART goals are just what dumb people do. All right, well, I had that mindset my whole life, like, well, this is just another stupid system that people created just to put in the school system. Well, first of all, systems are a great thing. Systems work at a bunch of different levels. Look at nature. Nature's a system. Look at the ecosystem, the food chain. If you're a farmer, gardener, there's different systems out there. Whether it's a watering system or just the system of how things grow, the cycles in life. So this is a beneficial system that I've changed my mind on. SMART goals aren't just what stupid people do. Actually, SMART goals are what smart people do. As far as that, SMART goals is an acronym. It stands for, specific, measurable, attainable, or action plan, realistic, and time-oriented. So we'll break each of these down. If it's something that you've, heard all your life and you've been doing, there's a good chance you're not on this webinar, or you could always improve or help somebody else improve by becoming an expert at these. But SMART goals, it's a very easy to use system, and the reason a lot of people aren't successful in life is because they don't use this system. So first of all, let's define success. Success is setting and achieving goals. I would stretch that and say success is setting and achieving SMART goals, because without the SMART goal process, we're going to be spinning our wheels. So specific, we're thinking here, what am I trying to accomplish? If your goal is to clean the house, that's not specific enough. For me, it's, mop the floors until they're 80% cleaner than they were before. Even that's not specific enough. I have to specify exactly which floors I want to mop. If I want to, take out the trash, well, what does that even mean? If you think about it, and I'm a very literal person, a lot of you are probably like, all right, dude, I get it. Be specific. Make it as specific enough for you that you can get it done. Remember, it's the 80-20 rule here. Next one is measurable. That's what the M stands for. How can I measure this? Well, first of all, I just gave you a resource with the ToDoist app. That's a very good way to measure it. Coaching athletes, looking at our statistics, that's an easy way to measure something. It's, did I accomplish this? Yes or no. If you can't measure it, like if you say, I want to do better, well, how much better do you want to do? I want to feel better. Well, how do you measure that? If you want to have more energy than the day before, well, you have to have a baseline. You have to be able to be a scientist and measure this. Make it a process. An easy one is your bank account. I want to have $100 more next week than I did this week. That's being measurable. You can see in your bank account if it's gone up, down, or stayed the same. All right, so the A, a lot of places say either action plan or being attainable. It's got to be, again, without stealing the next point, you've got to have a way to get there. Attainable, it's something that you get, something that you attain. If you're on this time management webinar, what's your specific goal to be on here? Is it measurable? Can you actually achieve it? How are you going to achieve it? So that action plan, well, if you want to get better at time management, your action plan is jumping on this webinar. Your action plan is to do the things that are listed out in this webinar. They're success principles. If you can walk away applying, not just knowing or learning or hearing about, but applying one of these principles, that's when you're going to see the biggest change in your life. So the action plan, if I'm Mopping the floors, the kitchen floors, so it's 80% cleaner than it was before. What's my action plan? My action plan is grab the damn mop and mop it up. Realistic. Is it realistic? You know, is this goal achievable? So I use this in another training, but, you know, getting to the moon. It's realistic. People have got to the moon before, unless you're into huge conspiracies. But is it achievable? Can you, unless you're an astronaut, I don't know that many astronauts listening to this podcast, but if you're on this webinar and you're an astronaut, make sure you give me a shout out on my Facebook page. Prove me wrong. But as far as that, is what I'm doing, is it realistic? Can I achieve it? You know, I had a friend say, well, I want to lose 30 pounds in a month. It's realistic, but it's really not achievable without dying. You can cut body parts off. You can't lose 30 pounds. I don't care how much you weigh. It's not healthy to lose that much weight that fast. It's not realistic to keep that amount of weight off for a long time. So when you're thinking about your goals, is it realistic that I can mop the kitchen floor? Hell yeah, it is. Lastly, it's what's the time frame? When do I want to finish mopping this floor by? So I want to make this kitchen floor specific. I want to make it 80% cleaner than it was before. That's measurable. My action plan, grab the mop, start mopping. It's realistic because I can do it. My timeline is within 20 minutes. Or if I'm using time blocking, if I'm putting it on my calendar, if I have it as a ToDoist task, you know, that'll pop up on my phone. And, you know, I frickin' get after it, swipe it out, and it goes to my little bank that makes me feel good that I crossed something off my list. And now I can see it. I can measure this. So time frame. When do you want to get this thing done by? So it's one of the toughest things at first if you've never done SMART goals before, but write it out. I've got a free SMART goal sheet. Message me, email me, text me, get on efficiencybook.com, search for SMART goal sheet or SMART goal training. It's under our blog section, but we've got a sheet that you can literally print out. And the reason we print things out or write things down, again, it's back to the main point of when we first got started. Everybody learns differently, but the more senses that you can get involved, think about writing. You have to think about what you're going to write, then you have to physically write it, and as you're writing it, you're reading it. As you're reading it in your head, you're hearing it in your head. That covers pretty much every learning aspect. So being able to write our goals down using SMART goal sheets, using apps, it gets us to think, it gets us to actually learn. But that's only half of it, you know. Knowledge is power. I call BS on that. I think the application of knowledge is power. You actually have to use what you learn. 1440. 1440. No, this isn't a year. 1440. That's how many minutes are in a day. The time's ticking. The clock's running. If you're not using your time wisely, again, I thank you for being on this webinar as long as you have. Again, if you need to pause, rewind, fast forward, do what's best for you. Only you know what's best for you. But here's the thing. Every single person, I don't care if you're in India, America, Canada, Africa, wherever, everybody has 24 hours in a day. So I stopped saying 24 hours in a day because that's time wasted. If I say something's going to take an hour and it takes 48 minutes, I'm shortchanging myself. That's 12 extra minutes that I've wasted by overestimating. Now, that's not a big deal, all right? 12 minutes, who cares? But 12 minutes in a week, 12 minutes every single day for a year? I don't have my calculator. What's 12 times 365? If I remember right, that comes out to like 72 days that are wasted. So if you're wasting 12 minutes of your time every single day, that adds up to being a massive amount of time lost. So we talked about the time versus money battle. This goes right along with it. When you break things down, when you're putting things on your to-do list, if you're using your SMART goal sheet for those big tasks, break it down by the minute, not by the hour. If you have a way to get on your calendar and break it down by the minute, it's going to be more effective. It's going to be more efficient. You're going to make it simple because a minute You know, that's 60 ticks on the clock. It's 60 seconds. We don't have to break it down that fine tune, but when we start looking at 1440, 1439, 1438, that's every drop of sand falling out here. When we realize minutes go by fast, and that just 12 minutes can be days worth if we waste 12 minutes a day for an entire year. Going back to watching Netflix for 8 hours every single weekend, how much time did you waste this year? Again, making sure that we prioritize our priorities. Time is a non-renewable resource. When all this sand gets to the bottom, it's out, it's over. Your life has an expiration date. What do you want to do between the day that you were born and then the day that you die? That dash on your headstone. What do you want to achieve between there? 1440, guys, be thinking on terms of minutes rather than hours. Once you see that, you're going to be a lot more accurate. It's going to take time at first to break down goals of mopping the floor takes 20 minutes. Well, 20 minutes is a lot easier to track than saying, well, you know, mopping the floor takes 30 minutes or a half hour. Well, a half hour, I just wasted 10 minutes. And I want to just really nail home that point of our time is valuable. You can't get it back. You can waste it, you can invest it, but when the clock strikes zero, you know, it's all gone. So that kind of brings us to our next point. As far as goals, if we make our goals using the SMART goal formula, if we have different goals, it's going to take a time actually applying this to your life to really see the growth. Once you start writing down goals, nothing changes. Once you start applying and doing the work and seeing those goals being achieved, that's when your life changes. So ultimately, success. You know, if we're setting and achieving our goals can change. You know, if we're shooting at the target and that target moves, we need to know where we're missing or where we need to move. We have to be like that palm tree and be able to be adaptable. But overall, we should be able to start writing down goals short term. You know, short term, long term, mid-range goals, they're all different for everybody. But for me, short-term goals, I can break that down by a daily goal. I can do that by an hourly goal or by, 60 minutes, because using those minutes rather than hours, it makes you think differently. Once you start thinking differently, you start acting differently. Once you start acting differently, your life changes. You know, these are all simple and easy to do things, but why do not many people do them? Because also what's easy to do is also easy not to do. It takes effort. It takes intention. So being able to follow through with that, short-term goals, that can be, daily, weekly, monthly. Mid-range goals, that can sometimes overlap. So I try to use this little Venn diagram. These overlap. Our mid-range goals, that could be monthly. That could be yearly. Sometimes our goals are, well, if I want to make $100,000 this year, that means I need to make, $10,000 a month, $50,000 every quarter, whatever it looks like, whatever your goals are, but they all work together. Long-term goals, I like labeling these as legacy goals. What do you want to leave behind? Long-term goals, again, they can be, 1 year, 2 year, 10 years, or, what do you want to leave long-term? The quote that stuck out of my head is, what do you want your kids to be proud of you for? What do you want them to pass on to their kids? One of those legacies that you've done. So be thinking of that as far as goals. If you don't have short-term goals today, that's okay. If you don't have short-term goals, mid-range goals, long-term goals next week, you'll probably be okay. But if you want to see your life change, you'll pause this right now and make time to write down some short-term goals, mid-range goals, long-term goals. This should be fun. It shouldn't be anxiety. It should be tapping into that, quadrant 2 of having that mental creativity by planning. This is important. The reason you're on this webinar is important. We're here to support you with that. Now we've got to think about our motivation. So having goals, that's good. Having an action plan, all that, but it's a lot easier to realize if we're going to accomplish a goal or not based on our motivation. So there's intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. You got to think of it this way. Intrinsic, it's inside of you. Extrinsic, it's like an exoskeleton. It's outside of you. When you think about setting goals, think about things that you can control. It's a lot easier to control the process than it is the outcome. So process goals, They go along with intrinsic motivation, things that are inside our control. Outcome goals, I'm going to make this very clear. So running a race, the process is running every step with the best of my ability. Outcome goals, winning the race, crossing the finish line. Can't always control if you're going against Usain Bolt or an Olympic athlete, but you can control how you do it. What's inside of you, that's in your control. If you're a baseball player, if your goal is to hit a home run, an extrinsic goal, you can't control what the pitcher throws. You can't throw what type of pitch, how fast, how hard, what the weather is. But what you can control is your swing. If you're swinging at good pitches, put in a good swing on the ball. You can't control if the fielders catch it, if the ball is interrupted by a freaking bird in the outfield, whatever. That's why I focus on the process goals, because we have control over that. I don't trust a lot of people with the outcome of my life. But using this intrinsic motivation, some of those examples are sense of achievement. You know, these are feelings, these are thoughts, these are different things because we take action that they occur, because we can control it. We can be curious, we can have interest, we can have pride. Things that we can't always control is money. How many people want to get rich? How many people are trained to chase after money? You know, you can control your attitude and effort is what I say. You can't control anything else. So how does attitude and effort get money? Well, if you do this well, if you do the process well, if you run the race well, you're going to cross the finish line. You're going to put a good swing on the ball and hit a home run. You're going to do good in your job. You're going to get money. Grades. It's about hard work. Getting good grades, if that's your motivation, what happens if you don't? But really going back to, well, what do these do for you? If you get money, if you get good grades, if you get praise, you know, if you do well on different exams, if you do well in your career, it's all going to reflect back to how you feel on the inside. And how you feel is determined by the process. It's determined by why you got started in the first place. So make sure that when you're seeing things that you can control, intrinsic motivation versus things that you can't control, if you're one of those people that's never really has felt fulfilled in life, think about your motivation. Is it internally motivated or are you externally motivated? There's a documentary called Happiness on Netflix. See, I watch a lot of documentaries. That way I can say that I binge watched documentaries for 8 hours. I'm still wasting time. But documentaries can be beneficial too, right? This documentary goes around the world and interviews, you know, each culture, each tribe, all that. And they determined the happiest people in the world, the most fulfilled people in the world, have intrinsic motivation. Their goals are process goals. They're not going to win races. They're not going to try to get a lot of money because they realize they can't control that. And when you're in control of your happiness and you're unhappy, that means you can do something about it. If you're not in control of your happiness, you know, that's a tough life. That's a tough pill to swallow. But if you can do something about it, that's the whole point of this. What can you control in your life? What do you feel like is out of your control? We've talked about this before on podcasts, but, you know, you are the cause of your own problems. Doesn't mean you're responsible for your problems. It means that, or I think I said that backwards, excuse me. You know, you're the cause of all of your problems. You're responsible for all your problems. Doesn't mean that it's your fault. Does not mean that it's your fault, because nobody else is going to go out there and change them for you. So you need to be the solution for your problems, because somebody else might have caused it. It might have been friends, family, enemies, whatever. You can't control other people, but what you can do is control how you respond to other people. So we kind of talked about this as well, crossing that finish line. Those process goals, take the best steps, take the fastest pace, take your best, do your best. You're never going to be the best. You know, 20 years from now, Usain Bolt, you know, great Olympian, Michael Phelps, great Olympian, somebody's going to break their records. It's just a matter of time. So if your outcome goals are to be the best, well, the best changes. But being your best, compete against yourself. Be better than you were yesterday. Be the person that thanks yourself because you did something today that your future self is going to appreciate later. So we started talking about this, being able to respond rather than react. Take a look at these pictures. You know, the one on the left is different than the one on the right. You know, when we react to people, when we react to situations, it goes back to those 4 quadrants. What are we reacting to? What are we really anticipating that will happen? So reactive people, they're going out living life. Somebody says something they don't like, they explode. And it just ends up, what do they say? Hurt people hurt people. But then there's the people that choose to respond. And this is one of those things that you have to train yourself to act and do differently. You're not going to be perfect at it at first, but a good way to help relationships. I don't care if it's with your significant other, your boss, your coworkers, but if we choose to respond rather than react, again, I don't want to make this sound, like, oh, it's one or the other. Again, it's the 80-20 rule. If you're driving a car and, there's a missile coming your way, you're going to react and dodge it, hopefully. If you're in a relationship and you fly off the handle, that's reacting, and it usually doesn't have a good outcome. But if you choose your response, anything can happen. If you touch a hot stove, you're going to pull your hand back. That's just a reaction. But if you choose to respond differently, some people say, oh, yeah, that hurt like a mofo. Or some people say, I'm going to learn from that. You get to choose your response based on the stimuli. So if you can apply that to your relationships, think of some areas where maybe you're reactive. I mean, it's really easy to point out the flaws in other people. When is your boss reactive? When is your friends, family, whatever reactive? Well, take a look in the mirror. When are you reactive? That's the toughest thing to do. But when we look at ourselves, again, we can't control if, our parents are reactive. We can only control ourselves. We can only control how we respond to somebody else's reaction. So being able to understand the difference of that really helps with time management, because if we're constantly reacting to those fires, we're not choosing to respond. We're not at peace and we're not in control. But if we start becoming in control, we can choose our response and choose what's important. If you're saying yes to only the best things, you're going to only have the best life. Another huge important concept, everything we talk about, it's proven, it's tried and true. Sorry, no fad diets here. There's nothing that hasn't been proven and tested here. So I'm thinking proven and tested things. The Bible, it's been around for years. There's a lot of wisdom in there. Thinking Dave Ramsey's debt snowball. If you want to get out of debt, you got to save more money than you're spending. You want to pay off those bills, starting with the small ones, get bigger, and make that snowball bigger until you're out of debt. And then you start moving to saving, investing, and going to the legacy fund. These are all things that have been around for a while. The same's true for Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Abraham Maslow, he was a pretty hardcore psychologist back in the day, did a lot of research, and he came up with this chart. So thinking of this, where you're currently at in life, it's going to really help as far as goal setting, seeing where you're at, where you can improve. Because again, if you don't feel good, if you're not mentally tough right now, it's going to be hard to manage your time. It's going to be hard to be where you need to be or want to be. This chart, it's up to you where you want to be, but I'm going to go over each of these. Ideally, according to Maslow, everybody should live here in the self-actualization. So we'll get to that here in a second. But the very basic is the physiological hierarchy. So this is the base of the pyramid. If you can't breathe, if you're not eating, drinking, if you're not reproducing, if you're not sleeping, going to the bathroom, all that fun stuff, if you're not healthy in those ways, it's hard to move on to the next one. So think about that. If you can't breathe, you're probably about to die. If you can't eat, if you don't have adequate food, if you don't have adequate water, all of that, you're not moving forward in life. You're the hunter-gatherer, you're out there just hoping for your next meal. If you have all these things fulfilled, you can move to the next level, safety. Safety, think about your house. Think about where you're currently staying. Like, do you have a roof over your head? When it comes Colorado and it's snowing 30 inches and all that fun stuff, are you going to be out of the weather? Are you in a bad neighborhood? Are you protected? Do you have an employment? Like, do you have a job? Do you have these resources to grow? Do you have a sense of morality? How's your family? How's your health? Is your property constantly being threatened? Threats can be a good thing because we can bounce back and recover from them, just like pruning a bush. But if we're overpowered and we don't have safety and security, we're going to probably level back down. Think of security. What if you get beat up? It's going to be tough to breathe. It's going to be tough to do all that. But if you've mastered all the basic psychological, physiological needs. If you've mastered your safety, you're going to jump up to the next one. It's hard to have friends if you're still, looking over your shoulder, making sure you're not about to die. Think of like tribal villages back in the day, we're going to war. It's hard to have friends when you're just constantly trying to protect yourself. But this is where love and belonging comes in. This is starting to develop that purpose in life. You can't have a truly meaningful or purpose-filled life without the sense of feeling belonging, being loved, being able to have friends, family, sexual intimacy. These are all things that Maslow saw, again, first in nature, then also in real life. Like, here's the thing. There's always, the natural world is going to have a supernatural correlation. Some people relate that to religion. Some people just relate that to, some sort of higher power. But that's really what this is all about. It's not about balance. It's about growth. If you're not growing, you're dying. So if you're growing up this ladder here, up this pyramid, you have good friendships, you're going to have higher esteem, self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others. You want to have that respect. So if you're respecting others, they're going to respect you. If you're doing all the things that you say you're going to do, if you're being all the things you say you'll be, that's integrity. That's having all of this stuff. That's going to keep moving you up the ladder. It's hard to have integrity if you're battling every day for food. This is when people start, I don't think just a person in a blessed life is going out and stealing unless they have something psychologically wrong with them. But people start stealing when they start needing these other things, if they're not fulfilled with the basic needs, having a job, having a home, having shelter, having food. But once you have all that stuff, it comes to having the difference between an abundance mindset and a scarcity mindset. If you're constantly scarce, if you don't have enough, you're going to keep going down. But if you have enough, you're going to keep moving up. And it's all about how you think about life. It's all about how you respond. You're not reacting, you're choosing to respond. So if you want to choose to keep moving up this ladder despite your circumstances, that's your choice. But the self-actualization, this is where morality comes in. This is creativity, spontaneity, problem solving, lack of prejudice, accepting facts, being realistic with life, flowing. You can't get to that creative flow zone. Again, this is super similar to the quadrants. This is quadrant number 2. If we're letting the other 3 quadrants pull us down, we're not living here. So where are you currently? It's the map. You are here. Where are you currently? Not where you want to be. You've got to be very realistic with yourself. Where are you right now on this hierarchy? And then next, where do you want to be? If you want to go down here to just surviving, or do you want to be thriving? That's your choice. But figure out where you're currently at, where you want to be, and then how are you going to get there? You've got to make a choice and then actually do something about it. If you want your life to change, you have to change it. Everything stays the same until something changes. What's going to be that factor that changes? Only you can control that. All right, this is Wedow with Efficiency. Check me out at efficiencybook.com. Obviously, you're watching the replay, so I can't take your questions right now. But what I can do, if you jump on our Facebook page, YouTube, get on efficiencybook.com, email me, coach@efficiencybook.com is my email address. I want to answer your questions. I want to hear your feedback. So if this was beneficial for you, my definition of beneficial, did you learn something new today? Did you hear something that you've heard before, but now you actually want to apply it because it's a reoccurring theme and it's happening for a reason? Is this something that you can share with somebody else? I want to hear your comments. I want to get better too. This isn't just, oh yeah, Wade's perfect out here, he made a website, podcast. No, it's crap. I need to keep getting better, because the better I get is the more people I can impact. I want to help every single person that I can grow daily. But of course, my goal is to, find ways to grow. I want to grow 2% every single day. Well, 2% every day doesn't sound like a lot, but a year from now, how much have I grown? So when you think on terms like that, that's when things got to change. That's when things start improving. So I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear some feedback for myself. So if there's your thoughts, your comments are definitely welcome. Your criticisms, I'm a big boy. I can take this. So we'll do a quick recap before I start giving some free stuff away for you. All right, so going back to the very beginning, I think recapping things, it's one of those things, you remember the beginning, the end, and not always the middle. So the whole reason you got on here, you wanted to improve your time management. So what can you gain from eliminating things? What can you prune out of your life to grow? Efficiency. Are you currently simple and effective? Are you living by the Pareto principle? Are you putting the adequate effort to the task at hand? Are you being effective? Are you hitting the mark of success every single time? Are you making the adjustments you need to? Are you simple? Is it a fail-safe plan that anybody can get there? Break it down to the small, bite-sized chunks. What can you automate? What are those things that you do every single day that you hate doing or somebody else could be doing? Let the robots work here. It's going to give us more free time to have quality relationships and focus on the things that actually matter. What can you outsource? Who are experts that you can hire to do tasks that, sure, maybe you can do, but they're going to do it better and faster, giving you more time. Time versus money. Remember, you can only earn so much time. You can't always earn more time. You can earn more money, though. So what can you do to use that money to give yourself more time? Make sure we're prioritizing our priorities. Remember, living here, quadrant 2, you want to focus on quadrant 2, manage number 1, avoid number 3, and limit number 4. Eliminate these guys. Get those distractions out of there. If you have to do some of the topics we talked about, put your phone on Do Not Disturb. Use different apps to track what and when you're being distracted. And then block out time when you are most present, when you're most able to achieve. Put up a sign. Build relationships with coworkers, but have boundaries. Make sure you download the ToDoist app. It's a good way to really track your goals, progress, set goals, and using the SMART goals. Being specific, measuring it, having an action plan, and actually doing it. Making sure that it's something that you right now can do. I know I can't run a freaking marathon right now. I need to train up to it. Time frame. When am I going to be mopping my floor? How long is it going to take? I'm going to break it down by the minute, not by the hour. And then make sure that you've got your short-term, mid-range, and legacy goals set. Life's going to come at you. Make sure you're prepared for it. What do you want your headstone to say about your life? What do you want to achieve between your birth and your death? How are you being motivated? Internally, is it things you can control, or is it external things that you can't control? Are you running the race for the process? Are you climbing the mountain for the end goal? You know, good views are great, but they fade. It's what you learn on the journey. Are you reacting? Are you responding? What's going to be best for your life? Where are you currently at on the hierarchy of needs? This is a good example to see where you're currently at. What do you need to do to get to the next level? Where do you want to be, and why do you want to be there? Take some time to answer these questions. Thank you so much for jumping on. Guys, I wanted to give you a coupon for a free life coaching session. So on my website, efficiencybook.com, you can get on the calendar there. I will send out a link for the full hour session. For most people, I'll just do a 15-minute, quick evaluation. I want to give you an hour of my time to recap any questions you had on this webinar. I want to get, if you're wanting to meet in person and you live in Colorado, let's meet over coffee. Let's do whatever is most comfortable for you. Let's do a Skype webinar or whatever. Get on a phone call. I want to help coach you. If there's any of these areas that you feel like you can get better at but don't know how, that's okay. I'm here to give you that certified life coaching expertise. I'm going to give you a $10 coupon to Walmart grocery. So if you're looking to save time and you want to try your first order, delivery, or pickup, there's a $10 coupon I'm giving out. And also the 3-month subscription for the premium service of ToDoist. These are all things that I think will be valuable to your life. I'm a firm believer in mutually beneficial partnerships. If I can help benefit you, it's going to also help me. So living life just like if you're on the plane and they say, hey, make sure you put the oxygen mask on yourself before helping the person next to you. If I'm dying, I can't help you. But if I'm not on my deathbed, I can help somebody that is on their deathbed. And so can you. So if you're in a place in your life where you're ready to help others, find a way. If you're in a place where you need to be helped, reach out. I want to make sure I get these gifts to you, so email me, coach@efficiencybook.com. Jump on our Facebook page, whatever's easiest for you, and we'll get you the links to all that. Thanks, guys.